Good morning. They took the gavel away from me. I was using it too much, so I'll have to bang on something. But I'll now call the board meeting to order. And before I begin, I would like to ask everyone to silence your cell phone, please. Thank you. I would also like to ask if you're going to address the board, please come to the microphone and identify yourself and your institution, your title. I appreciate that. And at this time, I will ask the Finance Chairman to take the meeting over.
Thank you, sir. We'll call the Finance Committee meeting to order, and we have several agenda items. We'll start right in with agenda item, action item number 6, the economic feasibility of loan issue for Henderson State University. This will begin on page 6-1 of our agenda book. Mr. Nick Fuller, will you provide us with the background for this item?
So agenda item number 6 is the economic feasibility of a bond issue for Henderson State University. This bond will be for $1 million with a term of 3 years at a rate not to exceed 5.25%. This bond is for auxiliary purposes, and the funding will be from auxiliary revenues. Proceeds from the bond issue will be used to fund renovation of the Smith Hall residence facilities. And ADHE staff recommends the approval of the.
Are there any questions? Do I hear a motion to recommend to the full board approval of the economic feasibility of loan issue for Henderson State University?
So moved.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Next action item number 7, the economic feasibility of loan issue for Arkansas Tech University. That'll be on page 7-1 of the agenda book. And I believe, Mr. Fuller, you have this as well.
Yes. All right. This bond issue for Arkansas Tech will be for $1.1 million with a term of up to 15 years at a rate not to exceed 2.44%. This issue will be for educational and general purposes with revenue funding through tuition and fee revenues. Proceeds from this loan will be used to finance an energy performance project, which includes campus-wide energy improvements to include HVAC controls and lighting. And ADHE staff recommends approval of the resolution.
Are there any questions on action item number 7? Do I hear a motion to recommend to the full board action item number 7? Second? Thank you. We'll move right along to action item number 8. Nick, you're just up here all day, aren't you?
All morning.
Wonderful.
Action item number 8 is the operating recommendations for the 2019-2021 biennium. The recommendations are for state operating levels of appropriation and funding for the institutions of higher education. The recommendations are based on productivity funding recommendations for the formula entities, as well as current estimates for Educational Excellence Trust Fund and Workforce 2000 funding. Non-formula recommendations are based on a 1.8% continuing level increase above the current funding levels for those entities, as well as any program enhancement requests submitted by the institutions after review by ADHE staff. ADHE recommends a funding increase of approximately $29 million for all entities. $7.4 million of this is from the productivity funding distribution, with the remaining coming from non-formula entity recommendations. And the productivity funding distribution will be go into more detail on that later in the full committee meeting. ADHE is also recommending an additional 2% spending authority increase to all funding recommendations within the productivity funding model. This is to account for any fluctuations within the forecast for the special revenues that are included in state appropriations, which would be the Educational Excellence and Workforce 2000 funds. Since we're using current year forecasts for those revenues, in the event that the actual forecast comes in higher, we wanted to be able to have the institutions to have the extra spending authority already in place. So this is just 2% above the funding recommendation for spending authority. So the total summary on chart on table A shows the total recommendation for appropriations for the formula entities of $637 million, with $7.4 million of that coming from new funds based on the productivity index. For the non-formula entities, is total recommendation of $230 million, with $21 million coming from the 1.8% continuing level, as well as any program enhancements that the institutions ask for. This chart is really hard to see if you're looking at the screen, but this shows the base level funding in the white columns for each institution. This is 2-year on the first chart. Then the productivity recommendation distributions within the blue columns to get to the total funding recommendation in the first column in the green, and then adding the 2% spending authority adjustment on top of that to come up with the total recommendation from AHECB in the final column. So this table D is the 2-year colleges. Table C is the 4 years. And then the non-formula entities, their columns look a little different without the productivity included, but it has in the white is again the base funding for the current year. Then the first column is the 1.8 continuing level increase. Any program enhancements are listed in the second green column for the total recommendation. And so ADHE staff recommends approval of the resolution. Any questions?
I do have questions on this. You
Sure.
and I talked offline just a little bit. I wanted to make sure that I have correct in my head just a few things.
Okay.
So our total recommendation here, can you give me an estimate of the difference of what we projected and what we are recommending right now in this action item?
From what we projected,
Yes.
from the current year funding, we're projecting to need around an additional $860,000 total for the productivity side of funding for the institutions. Now, on the non-formula, the $21 million increase, we've had similar requests and recommendations in the past. It's been a few years since additional funding has been added to meet those programs. So the funding for those institutions have remained flat for quite a few years. But the $21 million is about in line with prior years.
What we normally request, but not generally what
What is funded. Correct.
And then, just for my own sake, I was reviewing what are all non-formula entities. I know UAMS and I know math and science.
Sure.
Agri,
Yes.
and then research arms of different institutions. Is there any other major entities out there that go into the non-formula entities?
The system offices for the 2 systems, those are included in that. The ad tech, I guess, the acronyms are listed on that chart, but that's all of them listed there. But most of it is the research arms. The pieces of the institutions that do not generate FTEs.
Wonderful. And then my final question that we talked a little bit about offline, just to make sure I understood last night in our special meeting.
Sure.
I thought we put up a definition of what was STEM and what is now STEM, and we saw that just by changing the definition, we had an increase in STEM enrollment. Sure. Just by changing the definition. I believe that has been taken into account in this new productivity model. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and when we reevaluated the data, we did it for all of the years included in the formula. So there won't be a jump in middle years. So all of them are factored in from the beginning once we did the first year of the funding. That definition was included as well.
Wonderful. Those were all my questions. Are there any other questions? Do I hear a motion to recommend action item number 8 to the full board?
So move.
Second. Thank you. We'll move on to action item number 9. And Mr. Fuller, you're still up.
All right. And action item number 9 is the personal services recommendations for the 1921 biennium for institutions. And line item maximum salary increases were considered for this biennium. All line item maximums for the non-classified positions were adjusted by 1.8%. And then salary recommendations for any new positions were based on salaries for similar positions previously established at other institutions. So for the institutions, there are a total of 19,355 positions currently authorized, excluding UAMS. And ADHE staff recommends an increase of 175 positions total for those institutions. So this represents a 0.9% increase in positions for a total of 19,530. And this does include all classified and non-classified positions. With the change in the last session, with ADHE taking over the oversight of the classification system for institutions, all of those approvals come through our office rather than OPM making recommendations on the classifieds. So then with UAMS itself, they had a net new position request total of 254 positions, and ADHE staff is recommending an increase of 84 of those 254 for a total increase at UAMS, or for a total count at UAMS of 8,885. And ADHE staff recommends approval of the resolution.
Do I hear a motion to recommend to the full board approval of action item number 9? Oh, no, wait, any questions? Any
Yes.
other questions? I'm jumping ahead. Do I have that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Action item number 10, Mr. Fulton.
Action item number 10 is the capital funding request for institutions. And Arkansas Higher Education has a current replacement value for E&G space of approximately $5.3 billion. And over 50% of the useful life of campus facilities has been expended. There was a total request from institutions of $1.06 billion requested for construction, renovation, and technology infrastructure. And over $2.7 billion is needed for deferred maintenance and $244.2 million for critical maintenance on the campuses. A total of $251.25 million is recommended by ADHE staff for all projects, $148.5 million for renovation, construction, technology infrastructure, $24.4 million for critical maintenance, $54.94 million for deferred maintenance, and $23.3 million for equipment and library holdings. And this is in line with recommendations that were made in the past biennium. And so ADHE staff recommends approval of the resolution. Any questions?
Any questions?
So out of $1 billion, we're recommending $251 million?
Yes, sir.
So
For
when you get on down the road, is that going to bite us?
Well, in the current biennium, there hasn't been funding for, and with the change in the one-time funds from having the big pot of one-time general improvement funds to the one rainy day fund now, there's really the pot of money to be able to distribute to everyone across the state has dwindled down very small. So, like I said, we had certain dollar amounts for each level of schools to allocate for the different projects, and we use that same level for each as we did in the past biennium.
I mean, I'm not arguing that point, but I mean, if we're only as a state
Sure.
funding,
Yeah, we're not meeting the
or not
maintenance
meeting
needs.
yeah,
Sure.
to
Yes, sir.
maintain what we have.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure I understood that.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second? Second. Thank you, Sam. Our final action item, Mr. Fuller, you give us the background on that. Action item
Sir.
number 11.
Yep. This is the certification of budgeted revenues and expenses for the 18-19 fiscal year, which is the year that we just started this month. So this first slide shows the athletic fees per student semester credit hour that each of the institutions plan to charge this year. You see the ones in red are increases over prior years. So all but 2 institutions, one of them being one that does not charge a fee at all, have increases for the current year. And then the second slide is a summary of the different revenues and where those would be generated from for each of the institutions. And this is a just a report of the budgeted revenues for the current year of each of those institutions. And ADHE staff recommends the approval of the resolution.
Are there any questions on action item number 11? Do I hear a motion to recommend to the full board the approval of the review of the certification of intercollegiate athletic budgets for 18-19?
Thank you for the emphasis on that word, and I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Do I hear a motion? Is there any other business to be brought for us? I think we were just 6 through 11. Is that correct? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second. Thank you. Dr. Allen, we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mr. Chairman. We'll move now to the academic committee and Dr. Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Call the academic committee to order. There are 5 agenda items and 2 information items. And Dr. Walker will take care of the first 4 agenda items, and Ms. Clemmer the 5th one. And after all the discussion, we will vote on all of these agenda items. But after each presentation, we'll see if there are any questions. Dr. Walker.
Dr. Carr, the first agenda item is academic programs from Ozarka College, certificates of proficiency in surgical scrub technology, technical certificate in surgical technology, and associate applied science and surgical technology. These programs are new to the campus. The closest institution offering similar programs is within 80 miles. The institution has conducted an extensive need-based survey as well as a student interest survey. Both have shown positive indications of the institution being successful in these programs. Also, the institution would be unique in the state in offering these programs. There are only several institutions offering the same programs, including Arkansas State Newport, North Arkansas College, South Arkansas College, Southeast Arkansas College, UA Fort Smith, UA Community College at Hope, and UA Pulaski Tech. The institution is projecting the program will start out with 10 students, and by 2024, 15 to 12 students will be enrolled. The program is initially scheduled to start in the fall of 2019. Unfortunately, there's no one here from the college to answer any questions about the program, so if it's okay with you, I'll go to the next one.
Do you have any questions of Dr. Walker? Okay.
Okay. The next one is from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, our host institution. They have several BAT programs on the agenda. This is a BAT in English education, BAT in French education, German education, social studies, and Spanish education. The institution has indicated there's a significant need on a national scale for these BATs as well as a local need. The Department of Education in D.C. has indicated these areas are especially needed in terms of teacher education as well as in Arkansas. Social studies, for example, is listed as one of the high-need areas in the state of Arkansas for teaching licensure. The programs will be 120 hours. Also, the programs will be unique in the state. There will be no other institution in the state offering such programs. The programs will be housed in the School of Education, and individuals from the institution are here to answer questions. Projected enrollment for the programs will be starting in fall 2018, will be 30 students and grow at a rate of 10 students per year.
Any questions on item number 13? Item number 14.
This is a BS in cybersecurity from the University of Central Arkansas. It will be a very distinct program. There's only one institution in the state offering a similar program. There's a high national demand need for this program, as well as expected enrollment will be 12 students starting in the fall of 2018. Projected incomes for the students within the state of Arkansas once graduation will be at a low of $45,000 to a high of $100,000 entry-level positions. The institution has conducted an extensive need-based survey around employers, and they indicated that this will be a very successful program. There's only one other program in the state of Arkansas with a BS in cybersecurity. That's Arkansas Tech University, and they also have an associate degree in this area as well.
Any questions on 14? Number 15.
This is for approval. This is a merger that took place in started in 2017 under Act 636. This is between Crawley's Ridge Technical College and East Arkansas Community College. What you see before you on the agenda is the merger of programs being moved over to East Arkansas College. They're listed on page 15-2 of your agenda, and representatives from the school are here to answer any questions if you have them. And this is to ensure that financial aid is available to those students as well.
Any questions on agenda item 15? I think Ms. Clemmer's going to do 16, is that right?
Good morning. This is agenda item number 16, as you just were told, on pages 1 through 3 in your agenda book. The 37 programs on these pages in your book are presented for your approval. They represent 10 colleges with 37 programs. There is one Texas school with 4 programs, 5 California schools with 28 programs, 3 Arkansas schools with 1 program each, and the Missouri school. Also, I wanted to say the Arkansas schools and the Missouri school have physical programs in the state of Arkansas. The others are online. And the reason for so many from California is that California is the only state that has not yet joined the state reciprocity agreement, SARA. So that's why the bulk of these are from California. Most of the, I wanted to say the Arkansas program worth mentioning is the Arkansas Colleges of Health Education in Fort Smith is seeking certification for its first graduate degree after receiving certification for the Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine. So this is their first degree, so that's somewhat interesting and different for us, new program. And by approving this agenda item, you're certifying these programs for a period of 3 years through December 31st, 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Clemmer. Any questions from the board? Okay, we have 2 information agenda items. Dr. Walker, number 17.
The first item is letters of notification. 25 letters of notifications were submitted here. 25 institutions submitted letters of notification. They're listed in your agenda book, starting at page 17-1 going forward.
Any questions on 17? Dr. Walker, 18.
Letters of notification are listed in your agenda book going forward from page, well, wow, okay. We'll just say page 18-1 going forward. Any questions? That's it.
Any questions on 18? Before we vote, would any representatives of campuses like to speak today for these items? Do I hear a motion to approve agenda items 12 through 16?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Second. Second. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Normally at this time, we take a break, but due to the excellent work on the committee chair and the committee members, we were able to speed right through. So we'll move into our regular agenda, and I will call the meeting to order. And before I make my introductions, I want to, on behalf of the Higher Education Board, I want to thank Chancellor Joe and Ms. Sandy Steinmetz for hosting our board members, staff, and other guests for a delicious dinner last evening at the Fowler House. And we all enjoyed the food and fellowship, and we really had a good time, and certainly want to thank Chancellor Steinmetz, and if he would pass our regards on to Ms. Sandy, we would appreciate it. At this time, I'm going to call Dr. Steinmetz to welcome us, and we certainly appreciate the path that he has taken this flagship university on, and we appreciate and support you, sir.
Thank you very much, and good morning to the board, and good morning to all our guests here today. Again, I want to welcome everyone back here to the campus, the University of Arkansas. It's a pleasure to host you. And by the way, Sandy and I definitely enjoyed having everyone over last night, so it was a great evening. I also want to make sure that I thank Maria Markham, who's behind me, for her leadership as well as the leadership of the entire board. We appreciate ADHE's efforts on our behalf for our colleges and our universities, and far more importantly, what you do for our students as well. We depend on your support and guidance to make necessary improvements in our curriculum as well as our campus infrastructure and physical appearances. And while I'm at it, I also want to thank the law school for the use of this wonderful facility here today. Special thanks to our former Dean Stacy Leeds, who's now our Vice Chancellor for Economic Development, and our new Dean of Law, Margaret Sova McCabe. I want to thank them for allowing us to use the facility. I know you're probably eager to continue your business, so let me quickly call your attention to a few noteworthy developments that are happening around campus, developments that we're very, very proud of. Perhaps one of the biggest stories of last year for us was that 2 transformational gifts we received to establish a School of Art here at the University of Arkansas. This includes $120 million from the Walton Family Charitable Support Foundation, and these funds are for new scholarships for faculty lines, partnerships, graduate programs, and the renovation of the Fine Arts Center here on campus. In addition, we also received an additional $40 million from the Wingate Charitable Foundation to create the Wingate Art and Design District in South Fayetteville on Martin Luther King and Government Avenues, just adjacent to campus. This district will feature several new buildings for art and design classrooms, as well as labs for faculty and students, and also new studios. These gifts will quickly and I think unquestionably establish the university as a center of excellence in art education, art history, graphics design, and studio art. So things are already happening on this front. This fall, the school will welcome 7 new faculty members in multiple program areas that were hired this past year. And also the school will continue to develop our outreach programs, which are a very important part of the gift and of the school itself. And that includes partnerships with our community organizations like the Yvonne Richardson Community Center, as well as Forward Arkansas. The art education area is also researching and developing a plan to create a new MFA degree. A new art history class is also being developed that will be co-taught by faculty from this university, as well as lecturers from the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. And that museum, of course, will be an important partner for us as we move forward with the establishment of this new school. So this is a really exciting development for our campus, and things are moving right along with that development. I also want to call your attention to the new residence halls being constructed over on Stadium Drive. There you'll see 2 5-story structures providing space for 710 additional beds on campus. And these are unique structures. They're the first residence halls in the U.S. to use cross-laminated timber, and will be the first multi-story advanced timber structures here in Arkansas. And this step, we believe, has the potential to be a real boon for the state of Arkansas. Our goal is to demonstrate that advanced timber technology can be very flexible and cost competitive, and perhaps facilitate a manufacturing facility being built here in southern Arkansas. Our SEC peers are also very interested in this construction. A small group from Auburn University was here just this week on Wednesday to learn more about these residence halls, as well as the new library storage facility, which will hold up to 1.8 million volumes from our library. This facility also was built with advanced timber technology, and it's the first structure in the state built as such. The residence halls on Stadium Drive are expected to be completed this fall, the fall of 2019. Believe me, it won't be this fall. I've driven by there a few times, although the stadium will be done on time. Finally, it bears mentioning that we opened our interim Student Success Center located in the Garland Avenue parking and retail complex, and this opened up last May. This is, we hope, the first step in a major new Student Success Center to be located on the campus mall down the street here, somewhere down the line. This interim center features some new programs we rolled out this year, as well as some new thinking about how we support our students and how we support their success. And I won't get into all the details today, but limit myself to saying that we're taking a new comprehensive one student at a time approach that addresses the needs of the whole student, from financial and academic support to their health and their wellness, and also their engagement with the campus community as well as our surrounding community. We all know the new funding formula rewards progress that's made on graduation and retention rates, but with or without this incentive, we feel we need to make progress as a university, indeed as a state, on our graduation rates. This new center represents our commitment to a new and an innovative approach to student success. If you want to learn more about this, what we're doing in this area, just let Terry Martin know, who's here, and he can put you in touch with Trevor Francis, our Associate Vice Provost and Director for Student Success. So with that, I'll let you get on with the meeting. Again, it's great to have you on campus here, and we appreciate everything you do to advance and improve higher education here in Arkansas. So enjoy your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. We will take up action item number 1, the minutes of April 20 and the regular meeting on June 29, 2018. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes or correct them? So moved. I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, like sign. Agenda item number 2, Dr. Markham.
Good morning, board members. Good morning, presidents and chancellors and institutional colleagues. Please join me once again in thanking Dr. Steinmetz and his gracious staff in hosting this quarterly coordinating board meeting. The campus is beautiful and given most of us a much-needed respite from the heat in the rest of the state. And thank you for your hospitality last evening. The board is now considering a similar facility for the ADHE director, so thank you for that. The July board meeting is of great importance to the institutions as funding recommendations and operating budgets for the next fiscal year are presented for your approval. The recommendations that you will see today are the result of the second iteration of the productivity funding model and will be presented to the legislature over the coming months. Development of these recommendations has kept the staff at ADHE very busy in an already busy time of year for the agency. We're currently preparing for our legislative agenda for the general session beginning in January and are complying with pre-session and committee reporting requirements at this time. You will expect to see several items pertaining to the legislative agenda come before you in the October meeting. The meeting comes on the heels of a 3-day master plan update retreat attended by my senior staff at ADHE. And at October, you will receive a progress report on the state master plan goals and productivity metrics, as well as a summary of our legislative agenda items. And you will be invited to a strategic planning retreat in late April or early May after the end of the legislative session to develop goals and objectives for 2020 through 2025. An implementation strategy of the master plan is developing a best practices consortia. The objective of these consortia is for institutions to share ideas about successful programs that can be implemented on a broader scale and to generate innovative strategies which respond to the goals and objectives of this plan. To incentivize the sharing of these goals, the agency will develop awards for institutions for their best practices in 4 categories. We will be soliciting applications for these awards to match the master plan goals and present these awards for outstanding contributions. We will judge these entries based on innovative implementations, creative solutions, increased outcomes, and delivering value to our stakeholders. Winners will be featured on the ADHE website, invited to present at peer learning events, and highlighted in publications made available to you, the governor, and other lawmakers. Unfortunately, since we last met, Mason Campbell has left our team for an opportunity at Pulaski Technical College. We wish Mason well and are currently in search for his replacement. However, we are adding 2 new CEOs in leadership roles to our state. Dr. Cam Patterson has joined UAMS as their chancellor. He was the COO of the Medical Center in New York, and he began work at UAMS on June 1st. Dr. Patterson, are you here today? No, he is not, but we welcome him to UAMS. Dr. Jennifer Methvin has returned to Arkansas and the ASU system as the newest chancellor of ASU-BB. She began in July 1st. She's been at Crowder College for the last 4 years, but we welcome Jennifer back. We're so happy to have her back in the state. So if you would, Jennifer, thank you very much. I don't believe Jason from the College Board is here yet, so we will circle back with him later on, but that is my report to the board. If you have any questions for me, I'd be willing to take them at this time.
Any questions for Dr. Markham? Thank you very much for that report, and also we want to thank you and the staff for the work that you're doing, and I noticed that on page 2-5, the activities of the director are quite extensive, and we appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 3, Nick Fuller will present the Teacher Opportunity Program. Mr. Fuller.
All right. So the next 2 agenda items will be rules for scholarship programs that were presented for your approval in January. They have both now went through all of the rulemaking processes, have been approved through Legislative Council, and now coming back to you for final adoption of these rules. So item number 3 is for the Teacher Opportunity Program. The amendments to this program were redoing the priorities for the teachers that received the awards through the Teacher Opportunity Program. And so, as I said, these have all been through the rulemaking process, have been approved at Arkansas Legislative Council, and are now coming back to you for final adoption of these rules. So ADHE staff recommends approval of the resolution.
Are there any questions pertaining to agenda item number 3 for Mr. Fuller? Do I hear a motion to approve the final adoption of the Teacher Opportunity Program?
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second? I have a second. All those in favor of approving agenda item number 3 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is adopted. Agenda item number 4, Mr. Fuller will present the Arkansas Work Challenge Scholarship. Mr. Fuller.
All right. Agenda item number 4 is the rules setting the outline for the Arkansas Workforce Challenge Scholarship. These are $800 scholarships for associate degrees or certificates in fields of industry, healthcare, information technology. Funds for this program are the excess lottery revenues above the what's been funded through the Academic Challenge Program. And again, this has been through the legislative review processes and back to you for final adoption.
Are there any questions on for Mr. Fuller on agenda item number 4?
I probably should ask this question before we voted on the last one. But, so these we approved these in January, and then they went to the legislature. Now they're back in the form we sent them.
Yes, sir.
Changes.
Yes, sir.
I make the motion to approve.
I have a motion on agenda item number 4. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor of adopting agenda item number 4 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion adopted. Agenda item number 5, Mr. Fuller.
Agenda number 5 is the productivity funding distribution for fiscal year 2020. This will be the second year of the productivity funding model. The baseline metrics are from academic years 2014 through 2016, and the comparative years are academic years 15 through 17. There was an overall productivity increase across institutions of 1.34%, which generated an additional $7.4 million that's being recommended for distribution to the institutions. This year is the first year the institutions with negative productivity indexes can have a percentage of their base level funding reallocated to the institutions that had positive increases. So there is a chart in your book and a very small one on the slides, but I'll try to walk through this a little better than what we did before. So on the first year recommendation of productivity funding, institutions were able to keep up to 1% of their base funding of the new funds that were given to them. They were able to keep that and add that to their base funding moving into this year. Anything above that 1% was considered one-time incentive funds that they were able to keep just for the fiscal year of 2019. So what I've shown in the first few columns, the first column is the FY19 distribution of funds. The second column is the amount of one-time revenue that was included in that 19 number. So as you can see, $6.5 million of the 9.4 that we distributed last year was one-time funding. So that would be pulled back into the pot of money that we could then redistribute to institutions this year for any productivity increases. So backing that one-time funding out, that gets our 2020 base level funding number for the revenue, for general revenues. And that is the third column that you see. And so this number is what would be anyone that has increases this year, they're able to keep up to 1.5% of additional revenues into base going forward. So it would be 1.5% of this 2020 base number is how much of the new funding they can keep for base level for the to add to their base for next year. So then that is where we got our baseline for the funding numbers for our recommendations. On the new general revenue funding, we took that total base of the $556 million. The overall productivity increase was 1.34%, so that's how much our new funding recommendation is 1.34% of that $556 million, which is the $7.4 million that we talked about in the operating recommendations earlier. So between that, the funding is broken down for 74% of that goes to the four-year universities, 26% of that goes to the two-year colleges. And at the top of the chart, you can see that as well, broken down for almost $5.5 million for the universities and $1.9 million for the two-year colleges. At that point, we go to the institutions that showed increases over the year. That is the blue columns. You can see the numbers listed in the first column are the institutions that had increases. Shows the total points that were increased over the prior year. And then the second column is the contribution to the total increase for each of those schools as a percentage. Again, it's broken out between four-year universities and two-year colleges for the percentages. So taking the allocation of funds for each of those divisions, we multiplied it by the percentage of the contribution to the increase, and that's how much each school was recommended to receive in new funds. So you can see, looking at the first one with an increase for Arkansas Tech, they increased by 232 points. For a total four-year increase, there was 5,402 points increased. So Arkansas Tech's increase was 4.29% of that increase. So they would receive 4.29% of the $5.5 million that's allocated for new revenue for the four-year institutions. So their new funding is new funding recommendation would be $235,000. So that was the way that the new funding recommendations were generated for each of the schools. And that gets us to the $7.4 million total between the 2 and 4-year institutions. Moving to the next column is again, this is the first year that schools with negative indexes could have funding reallocated from them to someone else. You can see that's what the red columns indicate. Again, going through, we have the same percentages for the schools that show increases because they would receive the various allocations of percentages based on how much money is reallocated from the schools with negatives. The negatives are capped at 1% of the base number. Again, that was back in the green. So you can see the institutions that had negatives, which are shown in the last green column, the percent change up or down. And when they had a negative, their base amount was was multiplied by that change. Up to 1% is how much the institution could lose. So for 4 institutions, there was a total of $826,000 that was reduced from base level funding for institutions and then reallocated to those that had positive numbers. And then for 2-year colleges, it was $916,000. So going across, adding these numbers together, we come up with the total recommended funding for each institution. And then in the last 2 columns, we again show how much of that is going to be capped for the 1.5% increase that could be added to the base funding when we come to the recommendations for 2021. So in all of this, we were looking at a total increase of $7.4 million. Again, we were able to use 6.5 of the one-time incentive funding to come up with those revenues. So the additional increase that we're asking for the governor and the legislature to fund for institutions is $861,000, which is a big drop from the 9.4 that we got last year. So that's a lot of data and a lot of numbers, but are there any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Explain to me again how the process works as far as the $7.4 million in funding, how that's broken out between the 2- and 4-year colleges. How does the math work on that? How do we come up with that breakout? It
should be the total base level. Like the 4 years has 411 million of that 556, and the total 2 years had 144 million of that. So that should be the percentage.
It's weighted based on that.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So do we know that the funding is going to be at least what it was last year, so we're going to get that 7.4 million already?
I can't say it's guaranteed until the final revenue stabilization is drafted and passed into law during the session. But that, base level funding is where we start at. So that we're not starting at a lower level and then asking for that back.
Okay. So how many institutions lost funding? I mean, and I think next time, if you'll let us know when you're going to do this, Dr. Stanton's going to bring some microsurgery glasses so we can look.
Sure. There were 14 that had negative.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
There were 14 that had negative
14
percentages.
Had negative,
yes.
So now did they lose funding?
Yes.
Okay.
Up to 1%.
This year. That's the first year that happened, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But that's not netted out of the 7.4.
No, that would be out of their original base level from that 2020 base in the green. And so this year it's capped at 1% on how much they can lose, and the cap on how much they can add to their base is 1.5%. Moving forward to the next year, those will go half percentage increments. The cap, how much you can keep, will go up to 2%. How much they can lose will go up to 1.5%.
Were any institutions affected by the 1.5 cap on what you can add to the base?
Yes, and you'll see that very last column that shows incentive funding. Any of them that have dollar amounts there are receiving additional one-time funds above that cap. So for the fiscal year 2020, there will be $5.3 million of one-time incentive funds that could then be reallocated the next year for distribution, which is about $1.2 million less than what we have for the current year.
So is that 9 institutions? Is that what I'm counting there?
I think 10.
10.
Yes, sir.
It's 9.
No, it's 9. It's a
Oh, there's a subtotal. I'm sorry.
subtotal.
Yes.
Okay.
Question, the new funding of $7.5 million,
Yes, sir.
is such a small percentage of the total.
Yes, sir.
It leads me to believe if you started off with a small base, you're stuck with that small base.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, the base, we don't have a current mechanism to do anything about the base. The base is where we start from. So, and as I said, as a whole, the productivity was a 1.34% increase. And breaking that out between the 4-year institutions showed a 2.45% increase, and the 2-year institutions showed a negative 1.35% increase as a whole. So the adding those together is how we got the overall 1.34%.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion to recommend the full board approval of the productive-based funding distribution? I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving agenda item number 5 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Now we'll hear a report from the committee to approve agenda item number 6-11. Mr. Bordell will report on that.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee recommends the approval of agenda items 6 through 11.
We have a motion. Do I have a second to approve agenda items 6 through 11? I have a second. Those in favor of approving agenda items 6 through 11 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion is adopted. Dr. Carr will report on action item 12 through 16.
The Academic Committee has reviewed items 17 and 18, and we recommend the approval of agenda items 12 through 16.
We have a motion. Do we have a second to approve agenda items 12 through 16?
Second.
I have a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion is adopted. We will open the floor to presidents and chancellors who wish to address the board. Thank you. We have announcements. Our next quarterly meeting will be October the 26th at the Arkansas Department of Higher Education. And due to the excellent study of the board chairs and the board members, we have concluded our meeting in record time. And do I hear a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned.
All right.